Date, October 4th, 2017. Time, 8:30 a.m. Location, the border between Niger and Mali in West Africa. In the West African country of Niger, a small team of American Special Forces and Nigerian soldiers are returning from a low-risk mission near the border of Mali. After 2 days in the field, the soldiers are tired, hungry, and need to rest, so they choose the nearby village of Tongo Tongo as their stop. 10:30 a.m. local time. Their convoy of both armored and regular vehicles arrive in Tongo Tongo. The Americans give the soldiers half an hour to eat and rest while they meet up with village leaders. The meeting makes the American and Nigerian team leaders nervous. Not willing to leave their vehicles unattended, the Americans split up, with some of them staying back to stand guard. And that's where things started to go wrong. Instead of the half hour like they planned, the village elders dragged it on for more than an hour. During that time, the American soldiers watching the cars spot 2 motorcycles racing out of the village into the fields. Something is definitely not right. But with no other choice, they sit tight, hoping they can leave before disaster strikes. Both the American and Nigerian soldiers aren't equipped well enough to fight off an ambush if it happened, and they know it. At 11:35 a.m. the meeting ends, and the 8-car convoy leads the village back to the base. But on the way back, that is when it happens.
Approximately 100 meters outside of the village, enemy forces attacked the team with small arms fire directed at the rear of the convoy. Enemy fire was initially light, then intensified as they advanced through the woods on the team's position.
Islamic State militias had launched an ambush, and the American and Nigerian soldiers were outnumbered, outarmed, and taking heavy losses. What's worse is that none of the 8 American soldiers in that convoy had any previous combat experience. None of them had even trained together before they left for the mission. It was a complete disaster. The ambush would go on for more than an hour, and by the time they managed to escape, 4 Americans and 4 Nigerians were dead. It was one of the worst combat losses American forces overseas had taken in a long time. But they weren't the first casualties either. We had them in Somalia and Kenya, we had them in Tunisia, we had them in Mali, we had them in Niger, Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, but those were kept as quiet as possible. Nobody talked about it, said the ex-commander of Special Operations Command Africa. See, in 2017, American troops carried out an average of 10 missions a day in Africa, all in secrets. That's more missions than they did in the entire Middle East. Many of them were carried out by American soldiers and local armed forces, few of them were ever made public, and even fewer had the right approval. See, over the past few years, America has been waging a secret war in Africa. A war that doesn't need congressional approval, without checks and balances. A war that you've never heard about on TV, and it's bigger than anything you could have ever imagined. Stay dangerous, and this is America's secret war in Africa. Despite these secret wars, Africa's economy is actually booming right now, with a ton of smart people over there. And if you are in a business where you have to ship stuff, then spending the next 60 seconds to learn about our sponsor ShipStation is gonna save you a ton of money. ShipStation makes shipping stuff easier than ever by letting you automate most of your manual work, while also hooking you up with the best shipping rates out there, with up to 84% off from top carriers like UPS, USPS, and DHL Express. There's a reason why huge brands like Joe Rogan's On It uses them. With ShipStation, you don't need to manually track pending orders or go to a dozen shipping websites to find and print affordable labels. You can import orders automatically from whatever platform you're selling on, compare shipping rates right on ShipStation, and then print custom branded discounted shipping labels all in one place. And the best part is that ShipStation takes less than 5 minutes to set up. You start by creating an account, then you connect to whatever selling platform you use, Shopify, Amazon, Etsy, eBay. In fact, most marketplaces and stores are supported. And finally, you just connect your shipping carrier account, and that is it. You are ready to start getting all the benefits of ShipStation, including instant tracking updates for your customers and a carrier rate comparison tool. So start saving money on shipping right now by going to shipstation.com/JakeTran to get a free 60-day trial. That's shipstation.com/JakeTran for a free 60-day trial with the link below. Thanks to ShipStation for sponsoring this video. The 4 American soldiers that died in Niger in 2017 were never supposed to be in active combat. They were only there to offer backup for the main American Special Ops team that was on their way via helicopter. But the weather wasn't good, so instead the helicopters turned back, leaving the ground team out in the cold. The original team was an American Black Ops unit tasked with hunting down a man they said was a terrorist leader in the region. And unlike the team that was attacked, this main Spec Ops team had plenty of combat experience. And they were deployed to Niger under something called the 127E Authority. And if you don't know what that means, that is exactly the point. Section 127E is a secret authority that allows American soldiers to be deployed and go on missions without any need for the public or Congress to know anything about what they're doing. Basically, it allows highly trained American soldiers to be sent to countries like Niger, Somalia, Cameroon to train, assist, and even command local units of soldiers to hunt down terrorists. Or at least that's the official description. It's less we're helping you and more you're doing our bidding, said one active duty Green Beret officer with recent experience in West Africa. Instead of just hunting down terrorists, most of the 127E programs involve Americans using local soldiers as proxies to fight America's wars and battles for them. According to Central Command, these programs have led to the capture and death of thousands of terrorists. But the fine details of how many were killed or how they were killed is being kept a closely guarded secret. Officially, these American soldiers are not supposed to be in active combat. Instead, they're only there to help local soldiers do the fighting for them. But if that's the case, what were these two teams of American Special Forces soldiers doing on the ground in action in Niger? And that is where the mystery comes in. Since these programs don't officially allow American soldiers to take part in combat, these programs do not need the same oversight or approvals that other operations do, which means Congress, the American public, and even the African countries they're in have zero idea about what they're up to. And if we've learned anything from Iraq, sending American soldiers into third world countries without any supervision never ends well. In each of these African countries, you have the American Special Forces soldiers that are there to train and advise under Section 127E, and then you have the local African soldiers that are there to do what the Americans tell them. And in Cameroon, these local soldiers go by the name of the Rapid Intervention Battalion, or BIR in French. In Cameroon, the Americans and their proxies were supposed to hunt down terrorists. But the Cameroonian government also had its own problems. The government was fighting local militias who wanted to declare independence from Cameroon. This fight had nothing to do with America, nothing to do with and nothing to do with the American soldiers in Cameroon. But on the ground, things aren't that simple. Because as it turns out, these BIR soldiers who are trained, advised, and equipped by the Americans aren't just using their newfound skills and weapons against them. Instead, they're using their new American equipment and training to commit serious war crimes against the rebels. According to American officials, the BIR members are hand-selected partner forces. We train them and we equip them, and they specifically go after high-value counterterrorism targets. But these American officials conveniently leave out the fact that their hand-picked Cameroonian soldiers are also raping women, looting and burning homes, killing 3-year-old children, and executing innocent civilians. They kill randomly, they arrest children, they open fire on the civilian population, but obviously that has nothing to do with the Americans. We only train them and give them guns and pay them money, but we definitely don't support their human rights abuses. That's not on us. And that is not where it ends. Because all these human rights abuses the BRI commits, using their American training and American weapons, well, it's a great way to make even more people in Cameroon hate America, which is only going to inspire even more violent extremism. Although the 127E program doesn't allow Americans to enter combat and participate in any of these abuses, thanks to the secrecy around 127E programs, we will never truly know whether American soldiers in Cameroon knew about or participated in war crimes committed by the BIR. But that doesn't really matter. After these abuses became public, the head of the US Africa Command announced that they'd be slashing funding for the BIR and the 127E program in Cameroon. But that was all a lie too. Because while everyone was busy praising America for standing up against human rights abuses, the Pentagon was still employing BIR soldiers for months after the reports became public. For more than 15 years after American soldiers weren't punished for the human rights abuses in Iraq, the American government got away with supporting similar abuses in Cameroon. But thanks to the 127E program, no one, not even Congress, will ever know just how involved the Americans were in what happened in Cameroon. And that is not where the story ends. Everyone knows about America's war in Afghanistan. It went on for 20 years, everyone knows how terrible and pointless it was. But what about Somalia? See, thanks to 127E programs, Somalia has also been the target of hundreds of American missions since 2001, the same year we invaded Afghanistan. But no one ever mentions Somalia in the news. Instead, American government officials can come out and just straight up lie to the public. Like what the former White House press secretary said in 2021. There are other parts of the world, Somalia, Libya, Yemen, where we don't have a presence on the ground, she said. When in reality, that cannot be further from the truth. Somalia was one of the first countries to have American soldiers deployed under Section 127E. At first, the government said it needed soldiers in Somalia to fight. then it was to fight pirates. And then for a while they were just there, fighting with no clear legal basis to even be in Somalia. For more than 20 years, 127E programs have allowed American soldiers in Somalia to do almost whatever they want. But unlike the war in Afghanistan, no one is watching them in Somalia. No one is tracking their spending or confirming their kills. And since then, 127E programs have spread to Niger, Cameroon, Libya, Kenya, Tunisia, Mali, Nigeria, Mauritania, and more. Why? They say it's to fight terrorism, which is true and part of the story. But these secret wars are also a great way to control Africa. By deploying American soldiers into African countries, America gets to influence their governments. America gets to have the local troops do the dirty work for them. And America gets to wage war without anyone telling them no. Dangerous terrorists to take out? Send in the local soldiers to get massacred instead of us. Human rights abuses to commit? The locals did it, we would never. Terrorists to torture, interrogate? They did it, not us. With 127E, the Pentagon gets to decide who wins civil wars and who doesn't, who gets aids and guns and who doesn't. And of course, all of this is also very profitable for American defense contractors. For years, the Middle East kept defense contractors busy, but those wars came with far too much red tape. Too many people were asking for receipts, complaining about spending. Luckily, barely anyone knows about America's wars in Africa, so the government can keep running these forever wars far away from the public eye. But you want to know what's even worse than America's secret wars in Africa? America's secret war in Yemen. See, while everyone complains about Putin's abuses in Ukraine, which are very bad, America has also been participating in some terrible abuses in a little-known country called Yemen. See, since the war in Yemen started, America has participated in the deaths of more than 377,000 Yemeni people. 60% of them died from starvation, drinking unsafe water, or from not being able to get medical care, and at least 10,000 children have died as a result of the fighting. Many call this the worst humanitarian crisis happening on Earth right now. And yet, I bet that you have never heard about any of this. Why? Because America's secret war in Yemen is not about terrorism, it's not about WMDs, it's not even about a dictator America wants to get rid of. No, America's devastation of the poorest country in the Middle East is for one thing and one thing only: to keep their pals in the Saudi royal family happy. And we expose it all in our new private documentary that you can watch right now by clicking the card on the screen. Videos on war like this commonly get demonetized, but thankfully that's why we have this YouTube membership, where we post a new private documentary not available anywhere else once a month. So click the card on the screen to watch now.